Thanks for doing this. This is amazing. I love the approach because what we see by and large from social media agents is that unless you're doing like market report type posts, really the bulk of social media posts are going to be aimed at buyers and a lot of it out of town buyers. That's not what you're doing. You're really focusing on local sellers, but you've done it through a distinct channel from your Living in Dallas channel. So do you mind just kind of start by overviewing like what was the goal and what did you go do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Brian. And so, look, we're most known for the Living in Dallas, Texas channel, which has produced over 530 transactions in our first 5 years in real estate. So pretty phenomenal. But I would say that 99% of those were, I don't know, is that a good stat?
It doesn't suck. I'll just say that. It doesn't suck.
Okay. Yeah. Did I mention that was with zero advertising? So no marketing budget, just organic YouTube. And it's amazing. But I will say out of those 530 transactions, like 98% of those are buyers and mostly relocation buyers, which is great. It's an amazing client to deal with. They're very decisive. They typically contract sometimes over the phone, over one weekend, a lot of remote closings. It's really crazy, but they come to you with a relationship in place. But I started to test, like, how do we attract local sellers? Clearly the sellers are the holy grail of real estate, you could say. And so I thought maybe I could test some content on there to see if I could do that. But the problem was I started to notice the comment section. The comment section was, don't California my Texas, stop moving here, we're full. Keep Texas red, so it almost those couple of videos that I tested, it seemed like the locals that saw those videos also noticed I was doing relocation and then also put me in the as part of the problem of helping people move to Texas, So I just thought,
you're the guy.
It's my fault. But that's the thing is like, okay, so I don't know if I was going to be able to build a loyal local audience within that same channel. So I thought maybe this should just be on a completely separate channel. And nobody has really even done this, as far as at the local level, because it's one thing to, you could build something bigger than that or a national brand or even based off referrals. It's a little bit more difficult to track, but then also I just believe there's a lot more money in hyper local focus, and so clearly, because then you get all the commission, and so I created a whole new channel, and I was also thinking like, what's the content that would attract a local? What would interest them? It's not going to be a neighborhood tour or a model home tour, which are popular on a relocation channel, but that's not the case because guess what? They don't need to wait around once a week for me to tell them about the next suburb or neighborhood or the new community or the model home. They can just go drive around town. They don't need me to educate them on the area. They don't need me to show them around on video because they live here and they can literally go drive there if they're thinking about moving. So what are locals curious about? I think they're curious about dirt moving, development happening. How many times have you been in your car and if you take the same route to work or to the office or to church or school and you start to see dirt moving around, not 95% of the time, they don't have a giant sign out front that says, hey, we're building this, and so you sit there and you drive by this dirt moving around every single day and you're asking like, what's happening there? I wonder what's going on. And then you notice traffic is bad because of the construction. And then all of a sudden the road you're commuting on starts going under construction and now you're diverted. And so like, when is this project ever going to be done? So you start thinking about what are the problems that are happening in the area or what are the curiosity gaps that people are wondering, like what's going on in my city? And then most importantly, like how is this going to affect me and my home value? And so that's where I was like, okay, so there's a lot of development around Dallas. Clearly, I'm just in an ideal market for that. But I think there's a lot of new projects in every city you look at. So I started to look at, okay, let's create content around what's happening in Dallas, literally just that. And let's talk about, okay, dirt's moving here. What's going to be built there? What's the timeline? What's the projected timeline? Okay, this highway's under construction. They're diverting it. They're rerouting it. They're adding to it. They're widening it. Okay, what does that mean? Why are they doing that? And so we started to really kind of focus on those types of things. And yes, you mentioned market reports. Most market reports I've ever seen on YouTube have like 8 views. They're typically not entertaining. They're boring. The delivery is typically, you can't just make a video and say, oh, listings are up 35% in October. It's like, okay, but what does that mean? Now, there is a place for that, but you also, again, have to tie that back to what does that mean to the individual homeowner. So that's where I kind of started focusing content around, which was basically dirt moving, infrastructure, investment, corporate relocations, and then also master plan communities. So if there's a new community coming up that's going to be 2,000 or 2,500 acres, I mean, that is a big deal because locals are interested in that. And sure enough, I wanted to test this out over the last year before I ever really kind of opened my mouth about it. And what I started to notice is, first of all, the videos really started to blow up. And so they started to get a ton of views. And also, if you think about this from a TAM standpoint, which is total addressable market, if you look at the stats for Dallas, 170,000 people moved to Dallas last year. Now that's great, but that's really the cap of my market is 170,000. If you look at Dallas-Fort Worth as a metro, it's 8 million people. So that also tells me that I've got a larger TAM at the local level than just trying to, appeal to people relocating here. So once I started to make those videos, number one, like the comment sections blew up, and every single person was from Dallas or a Dallas resident. And they literally would state it. They would say, hey, I'm a Dallas resident. Oh, I've lived here for 10 years. Oh, the traffic is horrible. Oh, I can't wait till this project is done. And then they started saying things like, thank you for informing me about this. Oh, I'm so glad there's a into this project inside. Oh, this is going to, I've already seen my home value increase because of this, so every single comment, which by the way, one of my videos had over 1,400 comments alone. Now, here's the other key metric to this, is that this channel actually gets more shares than it does likes on videos. And so let me break down why that's important, because if I'm moving from California to Texas and I know every single one of my neighbors, I mean, am I going to share that video? Oh, I just watched this amazing video on Dallas neighborhoods. All of my neighbors probably don't care. They're like, well, we're not moving. So there's no incentive for them to share that with other people. When you're talking about, infrastructure and new developments and dirt moving and corporate relocation here, guess what? Man, not only does that affect me, that does affect my neighbor. It affects my other neighbor. It affects my uncle. It affects my brother over here. Oh, actually, this video applies to somebody over, and so they start sharing these videos with other locals. And so now you've created this sort of viral loop inside of your own community. And that's really a key factor as well. And that's what's really helped this channel start to blow up, the engagement, the comments. And then of course, locals start arguing with other locals, about these projects, or, this is good for the area, or some will say this is bad for the area. So you see all this dynamic happening, and it's creating the interest. And then on top of that, it's like, hey, we just got a simple CTA. And again, what we do at the end of these videos is tie it to real estate. How is this going to or possibly affect home values in this area that this is happening? Or what can you expect? Or here's what we've seen over the last few months, and here's where we're trending. Or if you want to try to sell, before all this happens, or you want to get, move to this area before this development is finished, so we start kind of saying things and planting seeds like that. And then, of course, simple call to action. Hey, you want to know what your home is worth? Get a free home evaluation in the description below. And so then that prompts them to say, okay, yeah, I wonder, and then I might also start talking about appreciation or equity that's grown in these neighborhoods over the last 2 or 3 years. And so clearly, we've had a significant spike since 2022. Some of that's come down a little bit, but most of it's holding pretty steady, at least in the Dallas market. And so I think a lot of neighbors, unless their next door neighbors sold, a lot of them are sitting on equity that they may not even understand they have. Or they're still basing their thought process off of 2022 equity versus 2025 or 2026 equity. So simple CTA, hey, get a free home evaluation below. And that's where we're starting to see up to, a submission a week, or not a week, a day. And so we're generating anywhere from 20 to 30 seller leads per day. 20 to 30 seller leads per month, from that channel alone at this point, now that we've hit full momentum on that. And every single one of them live in Dallas or the Dallas area. They're curious about that. We're able to give them a call and have a conversation with them and secure listings from them.
That's amazing. It's funny as you say all that. I'm living what you just described. I live in an area of Austin that's kind of was traditionally the outskirts. We've got a $467 million infrastructure project called the Wyatt Oak Hill. Yep. Everybody's big question is, when's it going to be done? What's it going to look like when it's done? By the way, TxDOT does CGI renderings for all these types of projects. They put them on their websites, but nobody knows that. I can't tell you how many people I personally shared that YouTube video from TxDOT with. Yep. But when I first moved out here back in 2010, there was nothing. Like, we had one barbecue joint and it closed down, and there was no grocery store. You had to drive 20 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store. So the big talk of the town that summer of 2010 was, there's an HEB coming. And those who aren't from Texas think Kroger's, think Wegmans, whatever it is in your area, Publix. That's HEB to us Texans, right? So that was the big gossip and part of the town, but nobody knew when, nobody knew where, and all that other stuff. And then gradually, restaurant after restaurant, commercial buildings started opening up because the Californians that didn't move to Dallas had moved to Texas and expanded this area, huge developments and everything else. Down here in South Austin. By the way, for my California friends, I'm just joking. It wasn't just you guys. It was a lot of you guys, though. Yeah. But it's blown this area up. And every new development comes with that question of, what's going to go there? Is it going to be a Chipotle? Are we finally going to get Indian food in this part of Austin? You know, those kinds of questions. And all the social media agents that I've interviewed and spoke with, they've all said, you know, essentially use your social media to be the mayor of your area. And you're just doing that for sellers. I'm curious, when you think about like your channel, and by the way, do you want to show your channel? Do you want to screen share? Would that be helpful in this conversation?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, let's take a look here. All right, so this is the channel. And by the way, tell me what you call this. So Living in Dallas was the original buyer-focused channel. What's happening in Dallas? Okay, there we go.
Yeah. What's happening in Dallas. So just something that simple, what's happening in Dallas here. And you can see our main link right here is free home evaluation. Click right here. You know, and if they click on that link, it's just going to pull up, a free home evaluation. Enter in your address and it goes from there. So that's the main point there. Yeah. And if I click on videos, you'll see this, like Dallas's Plano will never be the same. So we're talking about all of the projects happening in Plano over the next year or two. I mean, 4 days ago, and this one's already got 7,100 views. I mean, this video I released 2 weeks ago is at 101,000 views already. This one before that is at 75,000 views. You know, I did a what's new in Dallas for December of 2025, 42,000 views. 7 projects that will transform McKinney forever, 35,000 views. I mean, you just go look at this one, Dallas mega transformation by 2030, 39,000 views. Dallas biggest mega projects, 332,000 views. So all of this is, 7 levels of Dallas growth, 5,300. Again, so these are all super hyper local, and we might pick an area like Plano, McKinney, Salina, and we'll talk about some of the projects. Even this one, this was like a new master plan community. So this huge development will change Salina, Texas forever. 6,200 views. So just things like that. I mean, and another one of the, if I look on the most popular videos, like this one, this was one of the first ones that kind of popped off, but 39,000 views about a roadway, the Collin County outer loop. It's literally just about a highway, but I couldn't, this video had so many shares. And if I jump back in the analytics and go into advanced mode, this is again, what I love about this channel is if I look at the interactions and I just click on the shares and apply. Now this is just for the last 28 days right here. I mean, these videos have been shared over 3,100 times just in the last 28 days. If I look at the last year for this channel, I mean, over 16,000 shares on this channel. I mean, one video got 8,000 shares, another one 1,300. I mean, what would you pay in marketing to get in front of 8,000 home sellers? What would you pay to get in front of 13? I got in front of 16,000 in the last year for free. That's just from other people sharing my content. I mean, the view count, 832,000 views in the last year. So we almost hit 1 million views just within the last year. And
I wanted to ask you, about that too, because that's an extraordinary adoption in a short time period. One of the things I noticed right when you went to the beginning of the channel, I think I saw 10,000 plus subscribers. I could be off there. I thought
no, yeah, we already broke 10,000 subscribers.
And I'm curious, in the time again in that short time period, that's remarkable. How does that compare to your buyer site? Living in Dallas in that kind of same time period, had you built that kind of a following?
Well, so living in Dallas, we're now at 55,000, but I think at the end of the first year, I believe I was at 7,500 for the first year. So this one's actually moving a little bit faster. But of course, I've learned a lot of things about YouTube. so clearly, starting out on this channel, it's, we've had, much better thumbnails as compared to if you looked at my first thumbnails. And what we're doing on thumbnails clearly is, look, you just mentioned AI renderings. We're pulling a lot of this stuff from TextDot. And then also, even though we may do an overview, you can see like here, like a before and after. I mean, all this stuff is online. Every development now, these master plan communities, like you said, the city websites, they have these beautiful AI renderings, sometimes like AI drone shots going through some, flying through these developments. It really helps paint the final picture because most people are not that visionary or can really see, oh my, this is a mess. But if you show them like, this is beautiful, and then let me ask you this, and we talk about H-E-B and Costco and Walmart. And so that's something about, this Salina video that we did, Dallas's Salina will never be the same. Some of those key factors we talk about in there is, well, they're building a Home Depot, a 200,000 square foot super Walmart. I think it's going to be one of the biggest ones in the country, a Costco, 3 H-E-Bs, like all in this section. So, the question is like, we're going, do you think real estate's going to be more valuable now or when all of this stuff is done? And here's the other thing. Do you think these corporations are dummies? Do you think Costco's putting a Costco in the middle of the field because they don't believe nobody's going to shop there? No, they understand the growth and development that's about to happen. They're getting ahead of it and they're positioning themselves. And especially if you look at an area, here, Salina, I mean, Costco, Walmart, H-E-B, Home Depot, all within the same 3 blocks. Do you think home values are going to go up or down in the next year, 2 or 3? And so that's the, and plus I talk about population. I mean, what is the city actually permitted for? Like Salina has 60,000 residents. It's already permitted for 378,000. So do you think they have a master plan in place to grow this to 300? I promise you they do. And that's why all these master plan communities and these big corporations, retail giants are moving in there whenever it's a town of 60,000 right now, because they know what's coming online. So, are you the person that said, I wish I would have bought there 20 years ago? And this is kind of like those opportunities right now. If you watched Frisco blow up over the last 20 years, that's what Salina's about to do. So yeah, we talk about this because again, a lot of people drive by and they're just like, oh my God, the construction's annoying. It's a pain in the butt. I've got a detour. And it's like, well, hey, if you understand that a Costco is going there and a Walmart and you're thinking about moving, do you think you should do that now or wait for all this stuff to be done? So that's how we always tie it back to real estate and show them there. So yeah.
And what strikes me is that if somebody's listening to this and sees this as a point of information, yes, but I'd say they're also missing the probably bigger thing, which is a point of differentiation. Yeah. Because how many agents in your area know the things that you just said about Salina or some of these other towns, right? And a friend of mine used to call it his waiter pitch. Whenever anybody would walk into an open house or he was showing a home, he just knew everything about the amenities from the builder. He could talk about the flooring, the hot water heaters, and it was, he spoke so intelligently about the inventory and about the market. He just stood out head and shoulders above everybody else. And what's interesting is that, a lot of us do this kind of research anyways, but it just stays up here. And what you've done is put it out for the world in a way that attracts people. Curious, you mentioned with your buyer channel when you and I talked last, and I heard this from a lot of agents too. It feels like a come represent me appointment because there's this concept of parasocial relationship, which is where somebody's watched a bunch of your videos, they feel like they already know you, even though you've never met. When you talk about the sellers coming out of this channel, is it the same kind of come list me kind of appointment, or is that just getting you the lead?
It's a little bit of both. I would say this one is going to be a little bit more challenging. So the cool thing about this is this gives the opportunity for a new agent to break into the listings, and most agents that are brand new start with buyers because, they don't have the track record or the reputation or the networking or the sphere to start getting a bunch of listings. This is a way that they could actually do that, or at least get the appointments. But here's the thing is that you do need to be good at conversion for the seller channel. So yes, if you get them on the phone, there is something to that, again, because they might watch just one video and then submit a home evaluation. So that's not typical, where we have people on the buyer channel that sometimes watch for months and watch 20, 30, 40 videos. Those people, yes, every single one of them comes in with, Levi, I love you. I love your videos. Yes, you're our person. Now, on the seller side, they could watch one video and be like, oh yeah, I am curious about my home value, and fill that out. And so there's not enough of a relationship established. So you do need to be able to have that conversation on the phone. And then you have some that have been like, you know what, I've watched a few of your videos and I really like what you have to say. But then on top of that, everybody and their dog knows 10 real estate agents locally as well. Now, the buyer people coming from out of state, we have zero competition because they watch our videos, they call us, they've already chosen us. So a seller could be here watching our channel and they fill out the home evaluation, but their brother is an agent, and their uncle is an agent, and their cousin is an agent, and their neighbor is an agent, so you do have to kind of compete with that as well. So I would say it's a mixed bag that we've seen over the last year, and conversion and conversation really, really does matter with the seller focused channel.
I'm curious, and you're obviously doing well, so there may be a strategy here or not, but for a channel like Living in Dallas, which is attracting a lot of people who don't know Dallas, right? This is part of their research process. Yeah, I could see how Living in Dallas as a kind of catch-all bucket is going to attract a lot of people who then kind of find their area because you do all the area overviews and things like that. For what's happening in Dallas, Dallas is such a pocketed community. If you've never been to Dallas or you don't know it very well, if you live in Grapevine, you have no idea what's going on in Frisco. You have no idea what's going on in Arlington, right? It is a city unto itself. Is it getting too hyperlocal to say what's happening in Salina, what's happening in Taylor, Tyler, or any other the surrounding communities? Is that getting too hyperlocal, or is this a better strategy going broader in the metro?
Can you add my screen? Yeah. So no, absolutely. I mean, look at this. Like again, this is Dallas' biggest mega projects. I mean, 332,000 views. Clearly, Dallas as a whole is a much larger market. But then again, right after that, I did this huge development will change Salina forever. Now, only 6,200 views, and I say only, that's still pretty good. Only 6,200 views compared to 332. Now, the thing is here's the deal. When you do kind of broad-based content like this, again, Dallas Metro has 4 to 5 million. If you include Fort Worth, that's 8 million. So you're going to get a lot more viewership. But also you're going to probably get a lot more eyeballs or looky-loos, or maybe, people that are, have no interest in buying or selling. When you drill down on the neighborhood or the suburb like Salina, I think 6,200 views of that person is better than 332,000 views of Dallas as a whole. And then you see here, I turn around and did Dallas mega transformation by 2030. I got 39,000 views. So I go 332 to 6.2 to 39,000, right? But then I go to 7 projects that will change McKinney. Now, McKinney is a suburb, and look at that, 35,000 views. So again, sometimes the hyperlocal content can take off, and that's an amazing video. Again, I did another Salina video, but again, McKinney is a population of about 250,000. Remember, Salina is about 60,000 But guess what? If I want to tap into Salina new construction and I want to be the person that sells all those new construction homes that are coming online for the 378,000 people that will be there, that's why I don't mind focusing on Salina, even though the population is small right now. I know the growth that's going to happen there. But if I do it on an established suburb, you can see 35,000 views. That's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, that's a good video. Right there. So let me see. And then Plano. I mean, Plano, this one I just released 4 days ago. It's at 7,100 views. So it could be on track to hit something similar to McKinney because it's got a population of around 250,000 as well. So this one it's on track to probably do, let me see if I go to look at the analytics and show you, it's 4 out of 10. So it's ranking other than the 3 Dallas videos. It's actually on track faster than the McKinney video was. So that stat, right? It's actually 2,000 more views than that McKinney video. So that McKinney video, McKinney had 35,000. So that gives me a good idea. I'm probably going to end up around 35 to 40,000 views on this Plano video too. But again, I'll probably take that. It's probably going to generate more leads than, this one, the underground world of Dallas. I mean, this was just a kind of a fun one to make. It's already at 100,000 views in 2 weeks, which there is this whole underground city underneath Dallas that nobody knows about, even most locals. So this is more of like an eyeball video, but it can grow subscribers. It can grow viewers and people to say, oh, look at the other stuff he's talking about. So this is what I call broad-based content versus niche-based. I think niche-based is typically going to generate more business, but broad-based is great for getting your name out there, branding, getting in front of more people. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the one video that had 1,400 views. And so Noah Ward was a really good example of this. Noah posts on TikTok, among other platforms. And his most viral videos were him in front of a green screen explaining some sort of legislation in the local area. And to your point, even more important, saying the so what? So what does this mean for you? But the reason why his videos went viral is because he would just ask a great question and almost jokingly say, start a fist fight in the chat. But when you have 1,400 people commenting on a video, Instagram and YouTube are going to just push your stuff out there because they're like, okay, this is something people are really reacting to this. This is creating engagement, and they want that. They want more people. Is it the same with YouTube?
I believe so. I mean, because if you look at the most viewed videos, they have the most comments. This one, 1,300 comments, 25 comments, 62, 234 comments, 39,000. So yeah, you could correlate that, but I would also go back to correlating the shares. I believe that YouTube is really keeping an eye on shares for 2026. They want, if you're creating content that people are sharing, I mean, you're just multiplying, right? You're not just getting the 10,000 views. If they share it with 1,000 other people, I mean, that's just, then YouTube's like, oh my God, they're creating content that people are sharing. I mean, you're just putting it out there to more people. So yeah, I think comments and shares. Now, some people, look, there's a guru for everything, right? And, I've heard a guru or two say comments don't matter. They don't drive anything. They have no effect on YouTube videos. And I'm like, well, as long as they have a comment section, I want to generate some comments. Same thing with like tags, or hashtags on Instagram. There's tags on YouTube, and I put tags in my videos and people will say all the time, tags don't matter. They mean nothing. And I'm like, well, YouTube should eliminate that section then if they mean nothing, but they still have it. As long as they have it, I'm going to put some tags in the video. It takes me an extra 5 seconds, so am I going to say, yeah, well, that doesn't matter. Now, YouTube might actually say something, well, tags have little relevance. Okay, well, hey, if I can get an extra 10, 20, or 30 views on a video because I added a few tags, or it shows up in search because I added a few tags, I'll take that. Look, I'm just looking for, I'm looking for 3 to 5 deals a month, from YouTube. If I do, every time I ask an agent, would one transaction a month consistently change your life? every single one of them always says yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so, if YouTube gives me or has a blank to fill in, like, why would I not fill in that blank? If it gets me an extra 10 views, and that out of that 10, one of them is the buyer on a $500,000 house or $800,000 house, like, now could I prove that? Probably not, but at the same time, that's just the way I think. I think of like, look, why would I limit myself or not do something? I always just think that's a little bit of ego sometimes when we're like, I'm not going to do that, or that takes too much of my time. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. What if? I'm always like, what if on the positive side? Well, what if I do it and it does work, versus, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't think it works. Well, if you don't do it, you'll never know if it works or not. So, but yeah, comments, shares is really awesome. It's getting, I think on some of these videos, a lot of these videos, I have more shares than likes, and that's really cool to see.
I'm curious, is aside from having really great content, is there something that you can do to drive that engagement with your videos? Like, I'm curious with that 1,400 comments video, was there something unique that you did in that created that?
Well, you can always, and I don't do this in every video, but you can always ask a question, like you said, what Noah does. So somewhere in the video, you can say, oh, by the way, what do you think? Or have you been affected by the traffic? Or, is this causing you some inconvenience? Are you for or against this project? So yeah, there's definitely questions you can throw in the video that will direct people to the comment section. So yes, that would be one way to do that. That's the easiest way is when you're talking about a certain subject, especially if it's a trigger point, like traffic or delays or a new toll road going in, which everyone's like, why do I pay taxes? Why do I have to pay tolls on top of taxes? So simple things like that. So yes, there's definitely ways you can do that. And I would look for the moments that might be the most controversial or triggering as well, just because, if it bleeds, it leads, right? Negativity sells newspapers and news and everything else. And I don't like to be negative. Clearly there's a lot of videos on YouTube about the market crash and real estate sucks right now and all that stuff, but I like to keep things positive because I'm looking for people that want to move or have to move. I'm not looking for the doom and gloomers who are like, yeah, I'm waiting for home prices to drop another 50%, before I buy. And that's probably the person that's been waiting 10 years to buy anyways, So I don't want 500,000 views on a video from, and when I look at those market crash videos, and especially channels that's all they focus on is like nothing but doom and gloom. I mean, read the comments. None of those people would ever buy a home from you. If you're telling them, oh, the market just dropped 30% or, don't do buy. I mean, why would they? And so, but a lot of times, and I see some agents doing that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm like, you know what? I want the people that want to move or have to move right now, because people buy and sell homes every single day, regardless of market conditions. And whoever's in office, tariffs or no tariffs, or, ICE or whichever controversial topic you want to complain about, people are still buying and selling homes regardless. So I want to find those people.
Awesome. Well, it looks like you are. Levi, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about this? I know you've developed the passive prospecting program. Are you integrating this? Is it going to be a separate program?
Yeah, this is a separate program because it's a separate channel. And I think this is something that team leads and brokers should eat up. I mean, I think they should eat up. I think a lot of times team leads and brokers, even though we get them in the buyer program, a lot of times they shy away from it too, because they're like, well, I don't want more buyer leads, or I don't know who would say that, but sometimes they say that, or they say, I'm a listing agent, so I don't want to do that. And I always say, well, look, guess what? We get every listing because we show them our buyer channel, and when we're working with 35 active buyers at any given time, that matters to a seller. So yeah, maybe you're a listing agent, but it doesn't hurt to have a buyer channel either. And again, you don't have to open those doors. You know how many doors I've opened out of 530 transactions, Brian, over the last 5 years?
Curious. How many?
Zero.
Really?
Yeah. I've opened zero. Yep. I'm really a referral agent, on YouTube. I mean, if you think about that, through my team has opened all the doors. They've written all the contracts. and I just go to the closing, and then I go to the client appreciation events, and I jump on some Zoom calls from time to time just for fun. And that's a great part of my day. I mean, so I don't mess with all that other stuff. And so, would you like 25 to 50% of 500 transactions? Maybe that's why. Yeah. So
if you're offering sold, I'll take it.
Yeah. But no, it's a separate channel and it's a separate program. And I recommend, if you haven't started on YouTube yet, pick one. Just pick one channel, and then 6 months or a year down the road, once you understand and you're working one channel and you're developing and producing business from one channel, it'll be easier if you want to incorporate a second one. But I don't recommend starting two at once. It's not typically ideal. Most people struggle with capacity in the beginning, or getting their video legs underneath them and finding that rhythm and that pattern. So start with one, get it up and running. You haven't had a channel up to this point anyways, so another 6 months isn't going to kill you, and work on it. Or if you got 100% free time and you're just bored and have nothing to do, then maybe so. But yeah, separate program, separate channel, and they can just go in my Instagram bio. I've got a link in there. They can watch a little short training on it, and then, or just, passiveprospecting.com as well, but they can check it out.
Right, so do check it out. Levi, thank you so much as always. Brilliant.
All right. Thank you, Brian.